this out of the way. Teletheological Afro-Theo-Cosmopolitico-Poetics. I know, it's a mouthful. But believe it or not, that's the title of the incredible text we're diving into today. It sounds completely overwhelming, but trust me. We're going to break this thing down, and I promise, by the end of this, the powerful idea hiding inside all those syllables is going to make perfect sense.
So, what's behind that giant word? Well, it's actually a pretty simple but absolutely massive question. How do you build a new world completely from the ground up? And I'm not just talking about putting up a new house. I mean, new rules, a new language, a whole new way of living.
And look, this isn't just some philosophical thought experiment. This is actually happening right now. If you look at a map, in the Kenema district of Sierra Leone, there's a single-family compound that's trying to be the living, breathing laboratory for this exact project.
So, let's step inside. Let's take a look at this laboratory. What's actually going on there? Because this is so much more than just, an off-grid home. It is a very deliberate attempt to build a self-contained, sovereign civilization, right from scratch.
The blueprint itself describes the land in this really vivid, almost poetic way. The whole community is built on this iron-rich red earth. It's called laterite soil. And it has to deal with these intense monsoon rains and then these dry, dusty harmattan winds. Now listen, these aren't just pretty details for a travel brochure. They are fundamental, active ingredients in this whole thing. Just hang on to that thought. It's going to be super important later.
Okay, so here's where it gets really fascinating. This whole physical project, all the building and living, it's all guided by this incredibly dense, totally unique philosophical blueprint. You could almost think of it as its own operating system, and it has a name, the delta T squared model, or delta T squared for short.
So, what is this delta T squared model? Well, you can think of it as the constitution, the software, the source code that runs absolutely everything inside this compound. And its goals? They're nothing short of monumental. The idea is to build a culture completely from scratch, one that's totally free from colonial influence, and ultimately to achieve a state they describe as joyful sovereignty.
But, a blueprint is totally useless if it just sits on a shelf. So how does this thing actually work? How does it come to life? Well, the source text explains that the model has this core mechanism. Think of it like an engine that's constantly running, constantly trying to optimize and improve the community.
To really get a handle on this engine, we have to understand the bridge between the theory, the words on the page, and the reality of everyday life. How do you actually connect those two things? The blueprint has a word for this bridge. It calls it a transversal. Basically, it's just a path that connects two different realities, like connecting the architect's drawing to the actual building.
And right here, this is where we see the absolute genius of this model. The old way of doing things, the colonial model, it used what the text calls a singular transversal. Think of it like a one-way street. A plan gets made somewhere far away, and then it's just forced onto the real world, whether it works or not. Tough luck. But the delta T squared model, it uses a double transversal. This is a two-way street. It's a feedback loop. The community tries out an idea, they see how it actually works in their world, and then they adapt the idea based on that real-world feedback. It's a living, breathing process, not a static command.
And the source text itself puts it perfectly. This feedback loop, this second transversal, it says, is not a mere signature, it is the very engine of communal optimization. So it's not just some nice little add-on, it is the engine. It's the whole mechanism that lets the community constantly learn and get better, totally from the inside out.
All right, so we've got this self-correcting engine. That's cool, but how does that actually play out in the social structure? Like, what are the rules for how people interact day to day? And this is where the blueprint reveals this really fascinating tension right at the very heart of the community.
So on one hand, you have what they call flatness. This means power moves horizontally. Everybody has real individual freedom and agency. But at the very same time, you have something called dominion. This is a vertical structure of responsibility. There's a clear line of authority and accountability, which the text describes as a kind of patriarchal custodianship.
So wait a minute. Horizontal freedom and vertical authority existing at the same time? How on earth is that possible? I mean, doesn't that sound like a complete contradiction?
Well, according to the source, nope, it's not a contradiction. It's what's called a productive torsion. And that's a brilliant term. Think about a rope being twisted. That tension is what gives it its strength. And in the same way, this constant pull between the flatness of freedom and the dominion of responsibility is exactly what makes the model so strong and resilient.
Okay, so how do you actually manage that tension every day? How do you balance freedom and authority? Well, the community has this incredible, brilliant rule. everything, and I mean everything, comes down to practical action. An idea, a word, an order, it's only as good as what it can do. Does it help you build a wall? Does it help fix the solar panels? Does it actually serve the community? If an idea can't prove its worth with real, physical results, it has no authority, period. The blueprint calls this amazing principle sacramental hand theology. The ultimate test is in the hands.
And here is a perfect real-world example of this hand theology in action. Just look at how they create new words. So let's say somebody comes up with a new term. It doesn't just get, added to the vocabulary list. No way. It gets put to the test in the real world during daily work. They ask, does this new word actually help us? Does it make a task clear? Does it make life better? If the answer is yes, if it proves itself useful, it becomes a living organ of their language. But if it doesn't, it's just dismissed as useless jargon and completely forgotten. It's the ultimate practical filter. Even their words have to work for a living.
Okay, all of this leads to one final really crucial question. If this system is so effective, so well thought out, can you copy it? Can this blueprint be used to build other new worlds somewhere else? And the answer to that is really fascinating.
The key to the answer is in this really powerful quote from the source. The dirt itself is an ontological partner. Now, ontological partner sounds complicated, but all it really means is that the actual soil of the compound, it isn't just a place where things happen. It's an active ingredient in the recipe. It's a co-creator of the whole system. And that is why the framework is non-substitutable. You can't just pick this blueprint up and drop it in, say, Iceland or Japan. It just wouldn't work, because it is fundamentally woven into that specific red laterite soil, the rhythms of the local Mende language, and the cycle of monsoon and harmattan winds. If you separate the theory from that specific place, you destroy it.
Which, of course, brings up a really obvious question. If this amazing system can't be copied anywhere else, then what's the point? Why even write about it? Why share it with the world at all?
And the answer is just beautiful. The text isn't a how-to manual that you're supposed to copy. It's a lure and a witness. Remember that crazy long title? The telo part at the beginning means reach or distance. The whole point of the document is to transmit a signal, a frequency. It's not shouting, do what we did. It's whispering, look at what is possible.
And so the blueprint leaves us with this incredible invitation. It doesn't want us to copy its world. It wants us to understand how its world was built, from its own specific ground up. And the final question it poses isn't really about Sierra Leone at all. It's about you. It's about us. What is your ground? What is your laterite?